Shalom, everyone, and welcome to the Middle East and Beyond. I'm Barry Stagner, here with Amir Tsarfati, and our hope today is in this age of media misinformation to present the truth to you without any political or ideological bias or influence about the important stories happening around the world, especially as they relate to Bible prophecy. Amir, good to see you.
Good to see you, Pastor Barry. I hope you're warmer than where I am right now. This is pretty cold here in Denmark. We're up for a nice speaking tour that will start tomorrow and will include a few places here in the southwest and also in the capital, Copenhagen.
Well, we'll be praying for these events, that God would move mightily. Lord knows Denmark needs Jesus and all the things happening not only there, but in Europe and around the world. And Amir, why don't you this week open us up in prayer?
No problem. So, Father, we thank you so much that you are the creator of this universe. You are in control of everything. Although oftentimes we lose heart, we think that things are out of control. Things are not. Lord, you allow things to happen, and things happen for a reason, for a season. And we ask now that this broadcast today will bring a lot of comfort, encouragement, and also boldness to the hearts and the minds and the spirit of your people. We thank you and we bless you in Yeshua's name. Amen.
Amen. Amir, I think as always, we need to start, as the title of the program indicates, with the Middle East. And it's curious that here we've got basically 141 square miles on the southern end of Israel that has drawn world attention. Literally, I think it would be quite easy to say that everybody's got an opinion about the Gaza Strip. And maybe you can bring us up to speed on several things, one being the current ground efforts there. Also, the negotiations for a ceasefire. And then I think there needs to be some clarity on the issue of relocation because, you know, there's a lot of media opinion out there, misinformation being presented, and not everybody in the Gaza Strip is against it. So maybe you can inform us on those things.
Definitely. And again, good that you mentioned that there's a lot of media bias. The media is no longer a way to learn what's really going on. Get away from them, run from them. And we offer you a new media. That's what we're doing. And I'm telling you guys, this is your only way to understand what really is going on. As far as Gaza is controlled, Pastor Barry, we have to remember that we still have got anything between 22 and 24 living hostages in the hands of Hamas, together with dozens of dead hostages. Israel aims to do whatever it can to bring them all back, but we have to be fair, we have to be honest. Everyone in Israel, and even among the parents and the families of the hostages, we all know it is impossible for Hamas to get them all back, because then Hamas will cease to exist. And they know that, and we know that. So Israel has given Hamas time in between to make up his mind and get back, and according to the Witkoff arrangement and to release 10 to 11 living hostages, and then about half of the dead hostages, and then we're going to enter into negotiation of the final status of what's going to happen. And of course, remember, to begin with, for Israel, one of the main goals of the war is to disarm Hamas and to topple Hamas from being the ruler in Gaza. That is the one thing Hamas will never allow himself to do. Hamas cannot justify its existence without being armed and without being in control. So we have to remember, it's to be or not to be. Israel has decided to put more pressure, apply more pressure by resuming the fighting, not yet in the strength that we are planning on, but we've decided from now on negotiations will be under fire. That's what Prime Minister Netanyahu said. And right now we're attacking mostly from the air, but also armored forces are already entering, and we are touching the untouchable things in the first round of our maneuver in Gaza. We're going after their political leadership. We're going after people that disguise as journalists, but are not. They're actually terrorists. We know that they're on the list of Hamas, they get salaries from them. We know, payroll, and we know exactly what they do also. And the last thing, we'll go after their vehicles, supposedly, civilian vehicles, the infamous white pickup Toyota trucks that, out of the blue, popped out and were used even in the humiliating releasing ceremonies of our hostages. And so Israel is going after all of these things. We cut already all the humanitarian aid. We're doing this. We're mounting more and more pressure. And when the time comes and we realize there is nothing else to do and there is nothing left to do besides full-blown all hell breaking out, then five divisions are going to attack from all sides. Let's look at the map, Pastor Barry, and see. We cleared Gaza Strip. We left only presence in the security perimeter around it, including the Philadelphia corridor, and that's what you see. We cleared. And now we took back the Netzarim corridor. We sliced the Gaza Strip into two, and we're pushing everyone from the north towards the south, everyone from the very south towards the north, and eventually we will gather them all in one small area until Hamas is decimated, Hamas is destroyed, and we're doing that for the most part from the air so far. This is just an interim phase right now, Pastor Barry. We will increase the intensity as we see if Hamas, is going to do something about hostages.
Yeah, and Amir, maybe you can address the relocation issue, the immigration into other countries of members of the Gaza Strip, and some of the animosity that's been created by that, when the reality is there's a little bit of a different perspective from many of those who actually live in the Strip.
Exactly. Well, first of all, in all conflicts, the world encourages people in conflict areas to leave that area, and millions of Syrians fled to Europe and Turkey, and the world said nothing about that. Even the Gazans, in the latest Gallup poll that was released, we see that more than 50%, look, you're 38 plus 14, we're talking about 52% are saying that they're ready to either move temporarily or for permanently. And then others, 4 more percent, are saying that they might stay but get the rest of their families out of Gaza. And this is just an example to how the world, decides for the Palestinians and not ask them anything. No one wants to live in Gaza, and the reason is very simple. It's uninhabitable. And it will be even more uninhabitable after this current phase where we are destroying more and more and more infrastructures, because for us, anything that Hamas is using is a terror base, whether it's a hospital, university, clinic, whether it's even a tent of displaced people. If Hamas is operating from it, we are going to destroy it. And so people will find out that in order to be away from Hamas, they need to leave Gaza, because Hamas will not leave them. And so they need to leave Hamas. And the only way to do that is to leave the Gaza Strip. And President Trump made it very clear, Gaza is uninhabitable. To ask them to stay is to basically sentence them to death. So we already are working hard on establishing a mechanism that will not just encourage them to leave, but will take practical steps on how to do it and how to arrange it. We are looking for countries. And we already know that the UAE is a great instrument in convincing Egypt to receive at least anything from 500,000 to 700,000 Palestinians into the Sinai Peninsula area. But we know that Somaliland, near Somalia in Africa, is okay with that. We know some other countries that agree to receive. Everybody says there's 2 million people in Gaza. There's not 2 million people. There's hardly 1 million left. So if Egypt will receive 700,000 and others will get 300,000 left, even Jordan and others, this is it. It will allow us to go in and destroy Hamas forever. As long as Hamas is there, there will never, ever, ever, ever be peace and quiet and calm in that area.
Yeah, very true. Well, we've also got things happening in Turkey, and there's a rather curious set of circumstances going on there, Amir. And I couldn't help but think of how this is kind of a global situation. We had Erdogan have arrested his major opponent in the upcoming presidential race, the mayor of Istanbul. And, here we've got the unrest that's happening, much like what we've seen in the past in Iran and other countries over the people who are currently in control. And I think one of the elements of this that is crucial to understanding the prophetic narrative and what's happening in our world is I think that this is contributing or at least indicating to the fact that people all over the planet are dissatisfied with those in leadership. They're tired of war. And here you've got somebody we know that's going to rise up from the revived Roman Empire, that's going to be a man with answers, a man with solutions, a man with a peace plan that is going to bring satisfaction to the whole world. And, many of the people are, basically accusing Erdogan, tens of thousands of people marching in the streets, seeing this as it's been dubbed a legal assassination of Turkey's democratic opposition. And, this isn't the first time this has happened in the country. And, looking at these things, Amir, I think we need to remember that all of these things are contributing factors to what's going to take place in the future. And watching, this unrest in Iran, watching what has happened there in the recent years and the put down of these efforts to bring about a regime change, who knows where this is going to go. And, it could be Erdogan, I wouldn't put it past him, that this is going to wind up with some type of violence at the end of it to bring it to a halt. And maybe you can talk about this. I think one of the things I've always found to be kind of a sad development with this change that's happened in the last 15 years in Turkey is Turkey used to be a major vacation destination point for people in Israel.
Correct. Turkey was one of our best friends. Turkey was, before Erdogan was considered secular. They loved Israel. Israel collaborated with them on the levels of military intelligence, a lot of trade. And Israel helped them a lot. Ever since Erdogan was elected, remember, Erdogan is a member of the Muslim Brotherhood. And I have to say something that might sound harsh, but I will say it. The snake is not just Iran. The snake has two heads. It has Iran and it has Turkey. Two different two different opposing Islamic factions, but both of them wants to destabilize the Middle East in order to bring about the end of Israel. Make no mistake. We do not trust Turkey under Erdogan. We do not trust Turkey in its aim to expand and to bring back its glory of the Ottoman Empire. We do not, and as far as I'm concerned, they are as untrustworthy and dangerous as Iran is. Make no mistake. And as far as I'm concerned, Trump's attempts to appease Turkey and to normalize things with Turkey, I believe they're wrong. I believe he will soon see that as soon as Turkey will feel America is weak, Turkey will change gears and move towards coming up against us. Now, I don't know if Erdogan is going to be toppled or not, but whatever I know is that it's not going to get better for us. Whoever, if it's Erdogan who stays in power, and he can because he's brutally crushing all of his opponents, he already arrested in the last 48 hours at least 2,500 people. He has brutally, he sent his police to be so brutal. I mean, I have so many videos of how they treat the protesters. And these are not armed protesters. And he has the audacity to come against Israel and to call us Nazis and call Netanyahu Hitler when he is the the role model of how the Nazis used to operate in those days. But the thing is, Pastor Barry, Israel is noticing another very serious thing. A few days ago, there was an emergency meeting in the Prime Minister's office. We believe that Turkey received the green light from Syria to operate two major air bases in the northern part of Syria. and we are determined not to allow it to happen. So what Israel did in the last few days, twice, last night and the two nights before, we have destroyed everything that is left from the Assad regime, both airbase in Palmyra and in the Tias airbase, the T4. We destroyed the runways, we destroyed the infrastructure, we destroyed the control towers. We're very serious about not allowing the Turks to take control over these air bases and create a Ramstein type size and functionality air base in miles away from Israel. But as you know, they want to get closer and closer to us, and you and I know why.
Oh, absolutely. Ezekiel 38, 39, Turkey is a major player. And Amir, I think what you said a moment ago is important in that Trump offering the potential of lifting of sanctions for Turkey, which of course would benefit them greatly. And even the ban on selling them the most advanced aircraft in the world, the F-35, is on the table in exchange for them removing the S-400 Russian missile defense system that's been installed there. And one of the offerings is to move it to a U.S. base so it doesn't have the ability to track F-35s and these other things. And I agree. I don't think the president maybe understands the role of Turkey, and we know, fortunately, what's going to happen in the future. And F-35 or not, we do know who's going to bring the Ezekiel war to
Yes.
the end, and that will be the Lord himself.
Yes.
And Amir, you mentioned last week the importance of the social media platforms and subscribing and liking and sharing and commenting. And I just wanted to point something out to the viewer because one of the things I think we recognize or need to is that we live in an age where things are different than they used to be. And, we're run now by algorithms, and these algorithms, we need to know how to play that game. And when you like or subscribe or comment or share, what that does is it opens up the potential for this program to be viewed by people who don't subscribe. I think we've all had things pop up on our feeds like, I wonder where that came from, why I'm seeing that. Well, it's because other people liked it, that other people subscribe. So that will help us get this out into other people's media platforms so they can watch and understand what's really going on in the world, because we truly do live in an age of lies and deceptions. And Amir, every time you've said it, I laugh each time where you have labeled the media Knights. And boy, I don't know that that's anything could be more true about this group we have today.
Yeah.
And Amir, you guys are seeing some rather interesting things develop in your own country, things that are very similar to the things that we're experiencing now. Some of the threats being made against those who not only are associated with the president, but the president himself. And I think some of these types of things are being manifested in your country as well.
Exactly. There's a group of ex-generals and elite. They're the deep state of Israel. They have a grip on the secret services in Israel. They have a grip on financial branches, the judicial branch, the media, and they have a lot of money and a lot of time in their hand. And they are very frustrated with Netanyahu because he represents the people and he is not really representing them. They want to control the people. They do not want the people to have the power. Just like in America, they want Netanyahu dead. And when I say that, I mean it. They say it. They don't even hide it anymore. I hear it every day. The media is collaborating with them. I actually fear for Netanyahu's life, to be honest with you. I know that he is surrounded by Secret Service that may not even protect him as good as they need to. Because even the head of the secret police, the Shin Bet, is now being asked to resign, or they fired him basically, and he refuses to resign. He's the man that is responsible for the October 7th neglection. Between October 6th and October 7th, he saw all the red flags. He saw all the red lights. He did not alert anyone. In fact, the opposite. The forces on the ground were given and a command to clear the border. So, we need to find out what happened there. But one thing is for sure, he's the main person that is responsible for what happened that night or that horrible morning. And let me tell you something, Pastor Barry, the left, the liberal progressives that are so obsessed with killing or removing Netanyahu, they sanctified the head of the Shin Bet. They actually are willing to whitewash everything he did as long as it serves the purpose of toppling Netanyahu. Remember how many times President Trump was about to be killed, assassinated, and how the media nonchalantly just moved on. They never really took anything so seriously, and that's the way we see it now. And so, as far as I'm concerned, Israel is in a place where there is an attempted coup d'etat. We're talking about they're using all they can, but the thing is, the people are not with them. The protests do not have more than a few thousand people, sometimes just a few hundreds. These are violent, brainwashed, psychotic people. And what can I tell you? I mean, we're having two different wars that we're fighting against right now. The war against 7 different fronts outside, and a war on the minds and the hearts of the Israelis to protect them from these lunatics. And they're trying to accuse Netanyahu for things he never did. They're trying to frame him and fabricate things against him or against people around him. It's not working. It's not working. So it's very sad to see that. But I will conclude what I'm saying with one thing, Pastor Barry. You just talked about the times and the seasons in which we live right now. Seeing the hatred of so many to Netanyahu and the willingness to accept anyone as long as he's out makes me understand how easily the Antichrist will be received by so many Israelis when he will rise. And as far as I'm concerned, it's troubling, but at the same time, we can see it coming. We know it will come, and we need to remember before his rise, our departure comes.
Yes, and that's reassuring and comforting. And, Amir, we're seeing so many similar things here in our country. And, Jesus talked about in the last days lawlessness abounding. And there's a reckless abandon for the rule of law in our country. And, it's a class 4 felony to threaten the president of the United States. Mandatory jail time, potential capital punishment if there's efforts made. But, this is just swept under the rug by people who would prefer that he is not in office, even in positions of political power. And I think we are living in the last of the last days because lawlessness is definitely abounding around the world. Mm-hmm. And Amir,
but we have to,
things are go for it.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that apart from the war we fight all around us, we're still having war that is waged within Israel. I mean, we just had a terrorist that attacked a soldier, grabbed his weapon, and then started shooting at driving cars, and it was 5 minutes from Connect. In fact, one of our senior video editors, she just drove by this place 2 minutes earlier. And you can see in the backdrop of where it happened, my hometown. It's just right there where I live, right there where Connect is, right there in the heart of Lower Galilee. And we are having so much to fight and so much of the real enemy to deal with. And these lunatics, all they do is just waste our time and energy on fighting the fights between the Jews rather than the fight that we need to fight against our enemy. So it's rather sad. But remember one thing, Barry. Golda Meir said that pessimism is not a luxury that Jews can afford to have, and we are considered the 8th most happiest nation in the world, even though we have war. I mean, this is the latest poll from a few days ago. Of course, the Scandinavian countries are at the top of the list, but we're number 8 out of almost 200 countries, way ahead of Canada and America and most of the rest of the Western European countries and all of that. And why is that? It's because we see beyond it. We see beyond it, and I'm glad that pessimism is not a luxury we can afford to have.
Yeah. And Amir, I think just expanding on that, there's another country in the Middle East, Yemen, that a population of 33 million people, 24 million people in that country are in a category that would qualify them for humanitarian aid. In other words, in this one of the world's most underdeveloped countries, poverty is rampant. The vast majority of the population is impoverished, and yet they have the money to fire rockets at the Ben Gurion airport. Thankfully, they were intercepted. I believe it was over Jordan, and never even reached Israeli airspace. But they continue to invest money in the destruction of the nation of Israel, in the interruption of Western thinking, and again, watching what's happening in the Red Sea area in the U.S. now on day 11 of the attacks on Yemen, seeking to disable the abilities of the Houthis to disrupt the shipping lanes in the Red Sea, whether that be the ships that are carrying cargo or even the military ships that they continue to attack. But again, we've got another country that couldn't care less about its citizenry and cares more about the destruction of Israel. And I think this points to what we talked about last week. All this stuff going on in the world is spiritual. And, I know our focus on world events, not necessarily related to biblical prophecy per se, but Amir, I have to say, I have a hard time finding a story that's not related to biblical prophecy in light of what's happening with the focal center of the world, just like Zechariah 12:3 said. Jerusalem, which I believe could be much like the moniker of London or Washington, D.C., representative of the whole country, which would include the Gaza Strip. It's a burdensome stone. Israel is a burdensome stone to the whole world. And the Lord gave a very stern warning about those who would heave it away, that he himself will defend them and cut them into pieces. So it is just a bizarre time, Amir, to see
Yes.
these efforts to strike fear. And I mean, when you have to fly all the way across Saudi Arabia, and the defense systems that Israel has at their disposal, the motive behind this attack from Yemen on the Ben Gurion airport is nothing more than to cause people to go into shelters, instill fear in them, and disrupt the life and the happiness that you just talked about of the Israeli citizenry, but not going to
Yeah.
work.
No, it's not going to work. And as people could see on the map that we just showed, and we may be able to show it again, Israel is not only destroying those rockets above the atmosphere, outside of our borders, but sometimes big sharpness or big parts of those rockets are still big enough to cause damage when they fall. And so Israel is using the arrow to impact and explode the rocket, but then we use the Iron Dome to hit the smaller pieces in order to get them smashed to tiny pieces and not hurt anyone when they fall. And that is why we have a wide range of alarms all across central Israel, as you can see right now, because when we destroy the rockets above foreign countries, still big portions of that ballistic missile can fall, and we just don't want anyone to get hurt. That's all. But Israelis are not afraid anymore of all of this. We have graduated the Yemeni ballistic missiles academy. We can handle all of that. We don't take them as seriously as we used to because they don't pose a big threat. And a lot of it is thanks to President Trump and his decisive decision to basically decimate them. I mean, tons of their leaders have been killed. In fact, there's a rumor, I don't know if it's true, but at least Yemenite sources are saying that their leader was killed. Abdel Malik al-Houthi was killed last night. Now, I wrote on Telegram that it's unconfirmed reports. There are some pictures of his body circulating. I couldn't show it because I wasn't 100% sure about that. But I'm just going to tell you, don't be surprised if you hear in the next few hours that he himself has been killed also. And America is doing a great job right now, and it's completely different than what you guys did during the Biden administration.
Yeah, it's amazing how one man can have an influence that impacts other nations. And again, pointing to the one man who's going to have an influence over every nation. And again, Amir, I just think everything is moving at breakneck speed toward the tribulation period, which, as you mentioned, has to be preceded by the rapture of the church, our blessed hope. And I couldn't help but think
Yes.
regarding our next story, the old adage that floats around that a fool never learns. And you've got attacks coming from the northern border. Not everything is coming from the south, but the Lebanon continues to be host to Hezbollah, and Hezbollah continues to fire rockets at Israel. Maybe you can talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, an early Saturday morning, few rockets, in fact, 5 rockets were fired from Lebanon towards Israel. It surprised the northernmost city of Metula. And of course, Israel, as you can see, is controlling 5 places and a whole strip of land in southern Lebanon. But they fired those rockets just to test us, just as they're doing now in Syria. They want to see if we're serious and if they can, because all they do all day long is plotting against us. So they fire those rockets you can see on the map, and as a response, Israel blanket raids all across not just southern Lebanon, but also the Bekaa Valley. And we were asked by the U.S. administration, please don't attack Beirut. We're trying to start something new with the new president. So go ahead, do whatever you need to do anywhere else. And we killed some key Hezbollah operatives. We destroyed weapon caches. We destroyed launchers. We destroyed a lot of infrastructures that we found out recently that they exist. And I think that they regret from firing those 5 poor rockets that didn't even cause any damage to Israel. But we made it very clear we will not tolerate any violation of the ceasefire agreement. And as far as we're concerned, anything in southern Lebanon is under the control or the knowledge of Hezbollah. Even if it's not Hezbollah, Hezbollah knows everything that is going on there. Hezbollah turned blind eye and allowed someone else to do it, and Hezbollah has to pay the price for it. And as long as the Lebanese army is not going to disarm Hezbollah, we will have to do it. By the way, we're not the only ones that are saying that. Lebanese people are saying that. The Lebanese political figures are saying that we prefer that Israel will do that job of disarming Hezbollah. And you know why they say it? Because they don't trust their own army to do it. Because they know that their army is compromised. They know that their army is afraid of Hezbollah. It's a fear that is instilled in them for years. And so they say, you know what? The only country that is willing to do what is necessary to do in order to bring down Hezbollah is Israel. And, Prime Minister Netanyahu said in a recent interview a couple of days ago that when he looked at how Nasrallah operated and the way Nasrallah received his decisions, he actually realized that it's not Iran that is moving and shaking Hezbollah and causing Hezbollah to do things, but in many shapes and forms, it's Hezbollah that was causing Iran to do things. Nasrallah was a very, very powerful figure. His elimination is a big blow, and the elimination of all of their leaders, big blow. And now it's time to get rid of all of their weapons and all of their lower level commanders and soldiers and make them understand that it's time to pay the price and let Lebanon move forward towards normalization with Israel, because that's the only way Lebanon can flourish. If Hezbollah is weak or gone, and they have normalization or even peace agreement with Israel.
And Amir, I think one of the things that we're all watching with discouragement, and we've talked about it a lot of times, is why there's no U.S. presence in Bible prophecy. And I've been reading a book on the history of, it's called the Anthropic Cosmological Principle, and basically it's talking about what philosophers, what scientists, and what theologians have determined the purpose of man to be in the whole of this creation. One of the things that I ran across, I actually found it to be quite surprising, is a comment by Albert Einstein, and that's a name known all over the world. And one of the things that he said, much like a quote that's actually not something he actually ever said about darkness not existing. It's just the absence of light. But in line with that, what he did actually say is that evil does not exist. Evil is simply the absence of God in the human heart. And I thought, what a profound statement from this, obviously very intelligent man. And I think we're seeing, the manifestation of the absence of God, be it if somebody has another God that they have replaced the God of the Bible with, or if they've simply come up with a God of their own making and choosing. And the Barna Report is talking about, in a recent survey, that America is in need of spiritual renewal because less than half of Americans believe that God exists. And, some of the stats were very troubling. 60% of Americans do not believe that God exists. Among Americans who believe that God exists and affects lives, 38% define God as the most important element or component of their lives. 23% describe God as extremely important as a part of their lives. 18% characterize God as having a very important influence on their lives, and 14% agree that he was somewhat important in their lives, and 5% said, and these are people who believe that God exists and affects lives, only 5% of them said that God was not too important or not at all important to them. And, when we consider these things and look at what the Bible said was coming in the last days, not only the perilous times that Paul described in 2 Timothy 3, but also in 2 Timothy chapter 4, where he talked about the defection from truth. And, this is really, I think, what opens the door for evil to prevail. And I think Einstein was spot on. And I don't know what his spiritual leanings were, but obviously he believed in God. And the absence of God in the presence of the human heart allows for the existence of evil in our world. And things are growing darker and darker and darker. And the days are becoming more and more as they were in the days of Noah.
Yeah. Yeah, these are shocking numbers. I'm quite amazed, and you know what, Pastor Barry, when people say that things would get better and better, and eventually the church is going to have dominion over the world, look at these numbers. I don't want to discourage anyone, but according to the Bible, things will not get better. Things will only get worse. And the fact that we need to be taken out of here, for God to judge the world is because things are going to get that bad. So bad news, we're not going to control all 7 mountains. We're not going to control the media and education and military. And we're not. If anything, we see that less and less godly people are in those key positions, and less people even believe in God, and less people are willing to even give their lives to God. And again, during the tribulation, there will be huge revival. We know that for a fact. So, unfortunately, the world has to get a very heavy spanking in order to, get back and to seeking God. And it reminds me of what the Lord said through Malachi to the people of Israel: through their affliction, they will earnestly seek me. And it seems like it applies to the rest of the world as well. And so, shocking numbers, but not surprising.
Yeah, exactly. And Amir, another story I think that gives us an indication of our proximity to the tribulation. So we know a lot about what's going on. We've all heard about what's going on with Tesla dealers and owners. And a man said that he was shot at while driving his Tesla in Lowell, Massachusetts. And, considering, these things, I think the takeaway from it and all that we're seeing, the FBI issued a warning to Americans to exercise extra vigilance at Tesla dealerships and charging stations after multiple arson attacks. But, what we have, Amir, as far as a takeaway regarding Bible prophecy and what's coming, is that you now have people who are willing to harm other people's property or personage because of their association with another human being. And, this whole, all the rhetoric floating around about Elon Musk and all the things that he is trying to do and bring about that are viewed in a negative perspective, there's going to be a group of people during the tribulation because of their association with someone that being Jesus, that they are going to be eliminated by the Antichrist and his regime. So I have to say, as I mentioned a moment ago, we are so close to the Lord coming for us. We've got, violence filling the earth as it was in the days of Noah. Jesus talked about pestilence, and we've got that happening now. There's a story that the CDC reported that there is an urgent threat about a new fungus that has been found and spreading rapidly, and it's drug resistant on top of that. And this is what the Lord was talking about, where he mentioned in Matthew 24, 3-8, that there will be a series of things that are normal in the progression of life, but they will take on a birth pang-like progression as we near his coming for the church. And, watching these things happen, and this Candida auris, an antimicrobial resistant threat, is antifungal, resistant to antifungal drugs, making it hard to treat once infection occurs. And the numbers are some 30% who have contracted this fungus by contact have died. Now, the vast majority of them had pre-existing conditions. But again, we see plagues, pestilence happening. We see the violence of man. We see the hatred of people just because of who they're associated with. I have to say, I think Jesus is coming soon.
Absolutely, I agree with you. And it's the same tolerant people that convince you that you must switch to electric car in order to save the planet. And now, many of them bought the Teslas, and now look at what is happening to them. I mean, it's the double face. It's unbelievable. Pastor Barry, see, that's what I like about what we're doing, is connecting the dots and bringing people not only back to understanding what's going on around the world, but also understanding how it fits into the Bible. This is the media I believe Christians around the world should be consuming. Get rid of your mainstream media. They will poison you. This is the new media, and I'm speaking. I'm speaking seriously. I mean, you're being poisoned. And again, as Pastor Barry mentioned earlier, algorithm is the thing that we have a war against. And you are the soldiers, you have the weapon. The weapon is social media. We can give you ammunition, which is this broadcast and others like it. All you need to do is use it. Lock, load, and fire. How can you do it? You should like the video, you should write a comment, you should share it, and you should subscribe to our channels. And this will eventually cause this and other of our videos to appear and pop on the screen of many, many other people, so they can watch, they can learn, they can be educated, and they can also get closer to the Lord. I think it's time, Pastor Barry, that we move to the Q&A. Go ahead, Pastor Barry. I think you have the questions, yeah?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I was just reading them. Sorry for the delay. Monroe wants to know about Iran meeting Trump's deadline of 2 months to reach a new nuclear deal. And also, there's protests about the return of Prince Reza Pahlavi. And will this have any effect on the Ayatollah? And maybe you can address these two things.
Yeah, look, I love the royal family of the Iranians, and they're wonderful people. But I have some bad news, and the bad news is biblically, Iran will come against Israel. Iran will be part of the axis of evil. Iran will be part of the Ezekiel war. And the bad news is that if that's going to happen, then I don't see how the regime in Iran is going to change for something better that loves Israel and supports Israel. I truly believe that Iran will never, ever give up their nuclear program, because that's their insurance policy. I think that they will do whatever they can to drag their feet. They are the masters of negotiations, the master of deception, and the master of the art of the deal. And so they will always come up with something that will cause you to give them more time, and then another thing to give them more time. And before you know it, they've got the weapon already, and you can't touch them. So I believe that what we're about to watch right now is a mind game. But I also believe that someone needs to tell President Trump that time is not in favor of America and Israel. And I also need to, just as I think he's getting some bad advices regarding Turkey and Qatar, I want to believe that he's getting better advices when it comes to Iran. I don't think he needs to give them time. I think that he needs to give them a very strict deadline to either accept a deal that will cause America to dismantle Iran's program, completely dismantle that nuclear program. The program that is called Ahmad. It's a program. It's a military nuclear program that they've been having since the 1990s, and they halted it between 2003 2006. But that's it. They continue with it all until today. In Israel, in 2017 or 18, I think, exposed them when we brought the nuclear archive all the way to Tel Aviv, and we sent the president, the White House at that time, President Trump, copy of everything. You've been lied to and deceived. That's why he pulled out of the deal then. Look, they will do whatever it takes. You will never, ever convince them not to have nuclear bomb. So I don't see how anything can happen besides some military confrontation that will keep them quiet for a while until America is going to grow weak, will step down from world superpower status, and that's when Russia will make the move and join with Turkey and Iran against Israel.
Yeah, Mayor, I think one of the things people need to remember is that, their claim to enrich only to the level for energy purposes is a bull-faced lie, and anybody who knows anything about it would know that, because in order to enrich uranium to where you can use it for energy, you only have to have a concentration of U-235, one of the two isotopes that make up uranium in the raw form. It's 3 to 5%. And there's all kinds of stories about how much they have at 60%, and that's a plateau that allows them to just in a very short time enrich up to 90%, which is the weapons grade. So, as far as, giving up their nuclear program, it's too late. They're already at a place where they could just in a couple of weeks have a 90% enrichment.
Remember, every day, every hour that passes, the centrifuges still spin. Just remember that.
Yep. And Amir, there's some players that are also mentioned in the Ezekiel war scenario, but they aren't in the adversarial position, but they are in the protest position. And that is mainly Sheba Dedan, which is modern-day Saudi Arabia geographically. And Larry wants to know, whose side is Saudi Arabia on? They're so big and so wealthy. Why don't they play a bigger role in the war?
I don't trust the Saudis. I never trusted them. I will never trust them. I just think that it's for their benefit and it's their interest to be at the side of the one that will be better to protect them and help them. That's all. It's all about their interest. And remember, the Saudis they played a key role in the 9/11 preparations, and remember, they're not nice people. Look, I'm not one of those people that is mesmerized by the claims of Mohammed bin Salman. Yeah, I'm not. Still, Saudi Arabia would, they come to some African countries, and instead of donating to them hospitals and schools, they want to donate to them mosques. And you and I know what mosques are all about. They are becoming a hub for terrorists. So as far as I'm concerned, I always take them with a grain of salt. I'm not someone who trusts them. But again, I rather have them on my side than against me. I mean, and in the Middle East, it's all a matter of interest. It's all a matter of, you want that the enemy of your enemy will be your friend. And that's it. And so that's what it is. Unlike, by the way, the UAE, which have already proved to all of us that they are against the Muslim Brotherhood, and they're against the anti-Semitism, and they will not tolerate any teaching like that in their schools or any preaching like that in their mosques. and they're producing the best ambassadors. Look, I'm not for Islam, but the best ambassadors for Islam are from the UAE. And just so you know, so I'm just saying, as far as I'm concerned, if there is one country in the entire region of the Arabian Peninsula that I am, in favor of, and I have no problems being there and walking there and feeling very safe there, is the UAE.
Yeah, Amir, I think what people don't often realize is the reason that there are diplomatic overtures toward Israel by the Saudis is because of the shared animosity for the Iranians. So you've got a Sunni nation and Shia
Exactly.
nation, and both have an eschatology, both want to put the caliph in position and have a global caliphate with their brand of Islam in charge. And really, that's the heart behind these efforts on the Saudis' part. Yeah, Vicky wants to know, Amir, when is the next election in Israel? Will Netanyahu be able to remain in power? We kind of addressed that earlier, but maybe you can at least give an update on when something potentially could happen.
Well, just a few hours ago, Netanyahu secured a smooth completion of his term by securing a vote for the budget of 2025-2026. He basically passed it in the government first and then in the parliament, although the crazy leftists tried to block physically the entrance to the parliament, but they failed. The budget passed, and there is no fear that his government will be toppled by a no confidence vote. The fear was that maybe the budget will not pass and that it will immediately topple the government, but that, of course, hasn't happened. I believe that Netanyahu can finish his term by the end of 2026. And early 2027, there can be elections. As far as I'm concerned, the left cannot wait. They cannot wait. They want him out now. And a lot of them are using the families of the hostages. They're using it. They're using that card, and they're saying, "Oh, he wants to kill the hostages, keep them there." But when you ask them, what if all the hostages are back, but Netanyahu stays prime minister for 5 more years? Then they'll tell you the truth. They'll tell you, okay, no, then keep the hostages in Gaza. They said that live on radio. So I'm just telling you that it's all about hatred towards Netanyahu. It has nothing to do with the hostages, just like it was never about anything else. They don't really think that he is corrupt. They just framed him in order to kick him out. And it's the same old thing. They called it, the judicial reform, which now every Israeli understands we need to have. The judicial reform was framed as a revolution, the end of democracy, and they really caused fear among many Israelis. And now everybody understands it was a hoax, and it was all political. So I think Netanyahu secured his way all the way until the end of his term this time. And again, it's a great timing for this question because he just passed the budget vote in the parliament a few hours ago.
Amir, Keith is asking if oil plays a role in the current conflict in the Middle East, and will oil be the spoils that the nations come for? And I think what's implied there is in the Ezekiel invasion. And, obviously the U.S. involvement there with the Houthis in Yemen, and that is to keep the shipping lanes open. And here you've got, this region of the world where most of the oil comes from, and that's shipped all over the planet. And so therefore, without question, what the U.S. is doing, their involvement, is to keep oil prices from being destabilized, and seeing what happened under the previous administration happen again, where you've got these huge gas prices. We were touching on $7 here per gallon in the U.S. there for a while. And Amir, the second part of the question, maybe you can address, is is oil the motivation for the invasion of the nations from the north into Israel?
Well, we don't have much oil, but we do have much natural gas. So in our case, I believe it is energy, but it's probably not liquid oil. It's just natural gas. And so I totally believe that it is energy. I believe that that's the hook in the jaws of Russia to come down and to try to take booty and spoils. And I believe that for other reasons, Iran and Turkey will join them. And so, I mean, Iran doesn't need our gas, nor does Turkey. They want something else. But for Russia, this is it. So, yes, I believe it will play a significant role in, the reason and the timing of that war.
And just another final question, I think, Amir. Karen is asking about the Muslim Brotherhood. We know they were established, I think it was 1925, in Egypt, largely Sunni Muslim country, and they have a very anti-Western culture mentality. And, the question I think that you could address that she asked in the second part was about, is the Muslim Brotherhood a terrorist-based group?
Yes, it is. And that's why it's banned by all countries in the Middle East, except of, drum rolls, can you guess, which is the only country in the Middle East that is a democracy that is not outlawing the Muslim Brotherhood? It's
There's only
Israel.
one democracy
Believe
in the Middle East.
Exactly. And we're the only country that foolishly is still having them somehow accepted. And in the last government, the government of change, they were even part of the coalition, God forbid. But all countries, including Egypt, where they were born, ban them now. They all understand these are dangerous people. And the only country that is now actively allowing them to not just be there but rule is Turkey. Erdogan is Muslim Brotherhood. So that's what we have right now. I believe they're terrorists. I believe they have murderous ideology. I believe they definitely want Israel to be wiped out. And that is why I'm telling you, Erdogan is as dangerous as the Iranian Ayatollahs. Each has his own eschatological agenda, but both see that Israel has to be eliminated.
Yeah. Well, thankfully, we know that's not going to happen.
Exactly.
And there is a God
We
who
know.
fights for Israel, who neither sleeps nor slumbers. And for that, we are grateful. So, Amir, as we end the program, as we end every conference together, would you close us up with the Aaronic blessing in Hebrew? And I'll close in Greek, in English.
In English. And as we do that, I want to remind everyone, just remember, please share this video with as many as you can. All right. יברכך אדוני וישמרך, יאר אדוני פניו אליך ויחונך, יישא אדוני פניו אליך וישם לך שלום.
May the Lord bless you and keep you. Make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance toward you and give you his peace. Shalom.
Yes.
We pray this in Jesus' name.
Yes.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. So thank you very much for watching this MidEast and Beyond. And again, subscribe to our YouTube channel, like, comment, and share this video. Please be good soldiers in this war that we can fight well together and beat the algorithm. Thank you, Pastor Barry, for taking the lead today. And I want to thank everyone from Denmark and Pastor Barry from California. And until next week, I want to bless you all and say shalom.
Shalom.